Hello, everybody. It's Monday. It means it is that time of the week. It is the Premier League review show. I'm joined by two wonderful people today. You'll have noticed who they are because they are here every single Tuesday. Firstly, Rebel, how are you doing, mate?
Do we have to review the weekend? Because I don't wanna. I really don't want to. I was listening to that countdown. And I was saying, "Tell me what you want. Tell me what you really want." I tell you what you want. What I really want. I want the Glazers out.
I think a lot of United fans want the Glazers out at the minute, but a slightly happier man is the man below us, and that is Ross. How are you doing, buddy?
I'm all good. I'm all good. I'm just here to break the ice from all the Man United drama. I had a great weekend watching all the football, and as a neutral fan for most of the matches, I absolutely loved it.
Well, somebody's got to love it, haven't they? Someone's got to love the weekend. Definitely not us, Rebel. Before we get into it, let's just have this housekeeping done very quickly. So we are official partners with Rafe Esports Energy Drink. As you can see there in the corner, Rebel is posing with his Rafe. Now, Rafe is a powdered formula energy drink. It is mixed with water. I currently have some now. And once the screen goes down, I'll quickly show you what it looks like. So basically, you mix it with water. It's water-based energy drink. You know what it is nowadays. We've banged on about it a lot on this channel. So all you got to do is go over to Rafe and use FTSN22 for 10% off, or go to scan that QR code. It'll do it all for you on checkout. So thank you to Rafe. That is my Rafe, as you can see. It is literally just like water. It's flavored water, kind of, but it's very good for you. Well, it's good for me and Rebel.
I do have a problem with my rate though, Colum. I just realised once my order that was sent back that's been resent arrives, I will have exactly 7 rates, and I'm not as bad as 7 at the moment.
No, I know. But we're not going to go and talk about 7 right now. We're not going to do that. I feel like we need to talk about other things first. So the first things we are going to talk about is, as you can see there, Moyes and Rodgers' jobs are on the line by the looks of it now. Leicester lost 1-0 to Southampton. The goal scorer, Carlos Alcaraz, in the 35th minute was enough for them to see off Leicester. And obviously, David Moyes, he got absolutely battered by Brighton and Hove Albion. 4-0 goals from McAllister from the penalty spot. Veltman, Mintoma, who is in my fantasy team at the minute, and Danny Welbeck. What's going off at these clubs, guys? Moyes last season did very well. What's going off? What's going off?
Well, for me, West Ham should not be in the predicament they're in. I can kind of understand why Leicester are having trouble they are, because their team was gutted, there was a lack of investment, and essentially the only reason Rodgers wasn't fired long before now is because apparently they're broke and they can't afford to fire him. West Ham doesn't make sense to me because the signings they made last summer were some phenomenal signings, and they just have not hit the ground at all this year. Now, I'm starting to think maybe is Europe a problem for them because they are currently still in, the quarterfinal stage now of the competition that Spurs failed to get out of the group in last season. So maybe we're seeing a bit of too much on all fronts syndrome going on there. But interestingly, and this is where I think the problem lies for these teams that are languishing above the relegation zone. And I'm looking at your Forests, your Leicesters, your West Hams, your Leeds, your Evertons, your Southamptons, and your Bournemouths. There doesn't seem to be a lot of, the old get this manager in and he'll save your arse in the last couple in the run in of the season. A lot of those managers, like your Kirbyshes and all these fellas, have retired. So when they're looking at the shop window and they're seeing who they can get in, they're probably downgrading if they get rid of their current management.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point there. I mean, I'll come to you, Ross. I mean, if they were to sack either one of managers, if either one of manager was going to lose his job, who is there out there? What kind of manager would want to come in this late into a season instead of waiting for the new season and starting again then.
Yeah, I'm actually glad you mentioned that. But before I go into the potential sackings, I think it's fair to just point out that West Ham and the senior board at West Ham have firmly stated they will be behind David Moyes for the season. There's no intention for them to fire him. And I think it's because they realize that there is nobody that's immediately better than him that can improve West Ham's fortunes. And David Moyes knows their club inside out at the moment. He's got experience with West Ham on the European stage. And even though they are suffering the league, I think West Ham would be shooting themselves in the foot and potentially sleepwalking into relegation if they had to sack David Moyes. And I think there's a number of reasons why they are performing quite badly this season. First off, let's not neglect the form that they do have where they tend to yo-yo between the league table every second season. You'll find that one season they look like relegation candidates. The next season they're pushing up into a top 4 spot as a dark horse. We saw that the season prior when they made a Europa League, and it looked like they were pushing for Champions League. And this is just a common thread that's been going on for the past couple of seasons. Not to mention, Mark Noble has also retired now. It's a senior figure. He's Mr. West Ham himself. He's not there anymore. He's not in that dressing room. It's quite big. It's a big influence now that the team's missing, as well as spending huge amounts of money on foreign players that haven't hit the ground running. I mean, Scamacca, the Italian forward that came into West Ham, he was tipped to be the next best thing and potentially fight Mikel Antonio for that starting berth. He hasn't done much. Lucas Paqueta was good until he got injured, but hasn't seemed to find his form again. And the whole West Ham team are just not looking that good. But to answer your question, if they were to fire David Moyes, even though they weren't, there isn't really anybody that could do a job there at the moment. There isn't, unless they get Pochettino, but that's not going to happen.
Interestingly, actually, just a bit briefly, I'm just looking here on One Football, and there's a few quotes from David Moyes. When he was talking about the game, he thought they were causing problems down the right with Solly March and Veltman, and that he didn't think that West Ham were creative enough. In regards to Benrahma, he said, but I could have said a lot about them. I got a decision of what I think at the time. Pablo Fornells has played quite well for us, does a job for us. I thought he could have held out the defence a bit more in certain situations. So he kind of went in a bit on the creativity of his team in his post-match.
Yeah. I mean, I have seen a few of those comments myself. I mean, if you're an outsider looking in, like, you know, a Villa or a United or somebody like that, I mean, you must be licking your lips a little bit because there's some really good talent at these clubs. You know, Maddison at Leicester's a fantastic talent. You know,
Harry Barnes.
Scamacca is a good player. Don't get it, even though he's not hit the ground running, he's a fantastic player. I've seen him play in Serie A and everything. You know what I mean? It's a very good player. So, you know, maybe you're wanting them to be struggling a little bit if you're one of these bigger clubs, because then that lowers the price, especially if somebody like a Manchester United who need a striker.
Yeah. And actually, interestingly, seeing as you mentioned strikers, I did see Paul Scholes went in on Weghorst saying that he's not up to the level. So if you are looking at whatever 3 end up in that relegation zone, there is, I suppose, a few items for the plucking. Even Antonio is a nice utility powerhouse to deploy at certain points of games.
Yes, indeed.
So that being said, would Declan Rice also be on the move?
Well, I think Declan Rice is on his way out this season anyway. Regardless whether they stay up or not, I think he's going this season. Don't know where to, but I think he'll be gone this season.
Well, some of my sources tell me that we're looking at a possible midfielder roulette, and that includes Rice and Neves, both looking for new clubs.
There you go. There you have it. Right. It's not that time yet, Rebel, so don't worry. You don't have to get all angry and upset yet. We are going to go on to Aston Villa 1, Crystal Palace 0. Now, Aston Villa, very, very lucky to get this goal in my eyes. It were an own goal. Anderson scored it, but they did get a bit of a boost when Czech Decore did get sent off. Now, Ross, you're the Villa fan here. Talk us through how you think this is going to affect your season now. You got another 3 points in the bag.
Yeah, I think most Villa fans can say this was a must-win game if we wanted to start separating or increasing the gap between us and the potential other mid-table teams and the other teams that were fighting for relegation. Prior to this game, we were only 3 points ahead of Crystal Palace. And Crystal Palace are outsiders at the moment for the relegation battle if you look at the league table. So it was crucial that we did get a result. It was a scrappy game. Obviously, against coming across Crystal Palace, it was always going to be a low-scoring game. They have yet to score. They've yet to score a goal since the turn of the year, and that's a crazy stat. And that it's honestly, I think, Patrice Vieira. Sorry, I think Vieira is having a bit of a problem up front with the strikers. Neil Maupay hasn't found his scoring touch, and they seem to be just low on confidence. And Crystal Palace were there for the taking. As you said, the goal was quite lucky. Matty Cash swung in a dangerous cross, and if Anderson was not going to get there, Ollie Watkins was breathing down his neck to tap it in. So it was just a matter of time before we did get the result against them. It's very good for us to try and push on. I think most Villa fans can agree that their goal for the season is to try and get to top 10. And the only team that's keeping us out there at the moment on goal difference is Chelsea. And that'll be a huge, huge accomplishment if we can knock Chelsea out of the top 10. Needless to say, the next game is against West Ham, and we've lost our last 5 fixtures against West Ham. So if West Ham are looking to have a change in their form, this game against Villa, with history and its context, seems to be a good fixture for them to have up next. But looks like under Unai Emery, we're going to be keeping up our good form, and we have scored in every game so far under Unai Emery, which is great for us.
It is fantastic. I mean, Rebel, obviously, we have got some people in chat. I just want to get your views, obviously. Firstly, how well is Unai Emery doing at Villa from an outsider's point of view? And also, just this comment here that Palace don't have the quality to be top 10. It's something the Palace fans are expecting this year. Do you kind of agree with that comment?
I think Paxton has actually hit the nail on the head there. I think people need to be patient with Patrick Vieira. I think there is a decent gaffer in there. We have seen that era of player have so far failed to kind of hit the top heights of management, and we're waiting for one of them really to wave the flag, and it looks like maybe Vieira could be that guy. In terms of the overall quality, yeah, I do think it's fair to say that he is kind of working minor miracles with kind of bringing in players that nobody heard of prior to them being introduced through under Patrick Vieira. Like there's guys like Eze and Olise that they look like supreme talents, and they're kind of guys that I wouldn't mind having as maybe development projects at Manchester United if Palace were to tumble down. But in terms of Unai Emery and what he's done, Steven Gerrard had a phenomenal squad bought for him last summer. Unfortunately, Steven didn't know how to manage the depth of that squad because he became, and I think Ross might agree with this, unwieldy, top-heavy in parts, and he found it hard to settle his team. Emery has always been a very well, I suppose, organised manager, and he came in and he kind of had no pretenses when he came in. He gave everyone a chance to put up their hand, and he kind of said, okay, after evaluation, these are the guys I want to work with. And we start seeing certain players drifting out, and we'll more than likely see more leave come the summer because they won't fit Emery's plans. But I don't think Villa are going to be in any trouble in the distant future as long as the board kind of help facilitate the movement between what the squad is now and where Emery wants to take it.
I have to agree there. I really, really do. Just going to say hello to these wonderful people. So Paxton, hello. Hope you are well. Luke across the pond, Sports Talk. How are you doing, mate? He's saying he's fully expecting Palace to find their best form by the time they play Arsenal. Big hello to Mr. B and also And hello to Monday who says evening, guys. So it has come the time. Any Manchester United fans in this, you might want to, you might want to shut off, put us on mute for the next couple of minutes because we have to talk about that absolutely disgraceful performance that United put in yesterday, and that is the 7-0 defeat suffered to the hands of Liverpool. Now I'm going to get no great pleasure of going through these. So goal scorers for Liverpool: Gakpo scoring twice, Andy Carroll, aka Darwin Núñez, scoring twice, Mohamed Salah scoring twice, and Robert Firmino coming off the bench to score a goal as well. Now I can see Rebel is holding in all his anger. I'm going to get him to hold it on a little bit more as we go. I'm going to get an outsider's view first. So I'm going to come to you, Ross. What the hell went wrong?
Oh, I think it would be easier if I answered a question asking me what went right, because then my answer would be a lot more shorter. I watched the game, and I also watched over the highlights as well in case I missed something. And, credit to Liverpool. Liverpool are always going to turn up against Manchester United. I mean, it's a huge derby game, and you don't expect anything less from both sides besides 100%. Liverpool brought that. United, they looked absolutely woeful. And I tried to put my finger on it to figure out, how did this come about? Bye, Mr. B. I try to figure out how does this come about. And I looked at the game against West Ham, and you saw that there was a tinge of complacency as well, the cup game against West Ham. And West Ham didn't have the quality to put United to the sword, unlike Liverpool. But Liverpool played obviously 100% as you'd expect, but Manchester United just let them walk through. I was watching a lot of the defensive errors, and I can confidently say at least 6 out of the 7 goals were mistakes. Mistakes from Manchester United from either the midfield or the defensive third that had lapse of concentration, and just, dare I say, it's amateur mistakes, things that you don't expect. There was definitely Martinez's worst game in a Manchester United shirt. Anthony's done himself no favors to prove that he's an all-rounded winger that could try and track back and make up for his defensive errors, because he just walked on the pitch. It looked like he would been playing a game every week on how he lacked his energy. Bruno Fernandes, oh my word. As a captain, you're supposed to be there to stop the rot. If you think about Roy Keane, whenever United were going through a bad run during a game, and they could see that the ship started to sink, Roy Keane, as the type of captain and man he was, he would stop that bad momentum by trying to get through to his teammates' heads and rallying them up. And that's what a captain does, especially at a club like Man United. Bruno Fernandes didn't have that. Even Dallo, just thinking about it as well. Dallo had a lot of mistakes. He looked too comfortable to drop back up onto the goal line to try and stop a shot instead of marking Darwin Núñez for one of the goals as well. I just don't get it. That's why we talk about a lot of stuff that went wrong, and it's so tough to even put your finger on it because it was a culmination of errors from every player. Every player. It's hard to talk about anything that went right. I don't know. I think Erik ten Hag has a huge task on his hand to get the confidence back to the lads. And he did a very good thing in the post-match conference by saying that he will look at it in training, he'll evaluate what's gone on and how he can improve. But after the first half, and look, during the first half, the game could have gone either way. It was just one of those things. But it looked like a whole different team after the second goal in the second half. It's actually, it blows my mind. It blows my mind. I've said this to you guys before, that it's one of those games where you're just left in shock and awe because you don't know how to react.
Indeed. I mean, I just want to pick up some stuff that you've said there. I mean, I remember a very well-known thing that Roy Keane said. Roy Keane has turned around and said plenty of times, he was the captain of Manchester United. If he weren't playing so well and he came in at half-time, his instant thought was, you know what? I'm not doing very well. I'm going to go out and smash somebody in the second half. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go out and smash somebody in the second half, and then that'll get me going a little bit. We saw nothing. We saw nothing from Manchester United yesterday. I'm going to bring you up now, Rebel, onto the big screen, and you can release all this pent-up anger.
Thanks, Colin. I suppose the first thing I want to say is I've obviously been dreading looking at my Twitter feed over the last number of hours, and something that has shocked and actually appalled me, and that is elements of our fan base calling for Ten Hag's head. Are you absolutely crazy? He is the one positive thing that is holding the glue of that club together. So absolutely disagree with anybody that thinks that that is the solution to Manchester United's problems. He is the guy that's going to fix Manchester United, not break us. And I suppose, Colin, you'll probably feel the same way as I do. We're going to win and we're going to lose games against teams on a year-on-year basis. What I can't accept is giving up, surrendering, and not putting in some bit of effort to try and restore some bit of pride in the crest that they wear out on that pitch. And for 42 minutes of the game, Manchester United did attempt to put their authority on it. And I said this on the United agenda yesterday. I said, the one issue that we have at the moment is the drop-off from Marcus Rashford's goal haul to the next man up. And when Marcus Rashford doesn't score, there's kind of a sense of where are the goals going to come from? Because I think there's a double-figure gap between first and second, which is not something that we can afford to do. Looking at those 7 goals Liverpool scored, they came from 4 different scores. 3 of them got braces. So there's a good distribution in possible goal-scoring threats for Liverpool. Manchester United need the likes of your Sanchos, your Anthonys, and Bruno Fernandes's to be coming in and coming up with double-figure goal tallies every season, because that is how you have a sustainable production in attack. In terms of the game yesterday, we did not finish our chances in front of goal. Colin, you would probably be touching on this a bit more, but the amount of times that Alisson had the ball dropped into the bread basket that was comfortable for him, that he didn't really have to make a save, it wasn't good enough for a team that has ambitions of cementing a top 4 place and possibly winning another cup, be it the FA Cup or the Europa. But I cannot accept surrender. And what I was absolutely delighted with was this little quote from our gaffer, the guy with a plan. If I see this kind of attitude again under me, then you won't be playing at this club. That is a warning shot across the bows of any Manchester United player. He is not afraid to remove you from first team activities. Marcus Rashford was a couple of minutes late for a meeting. He got benched. Cristiano Ronaldo didn't want to toe the party line. He got moved on. And the one thing that I will pick up on, and this was a Liverpool fan that said this to me, he was at the game, and he said the laziness of Anthony surprised him quite a lot. And we all know that Erik ten Hag likes a high work rate in his players. And Anthony being somebody that worked under him, he will have known exactly what he was getting when he came from Ajax to Manchester United. Now, I'm starting to wonder, are we seeing with some of the players the constant bombardment of fixtures taking a toll on them? The fact that Erik ten Hag hasn't been rotating as much as maybe some people would desire. But then to counter that, we did attempt to do that against West Ham, and in the end we needed to bring on all these players in order to take them down. But I think to sum up, while I can accept a loss to Liverpool, I cannot accept surrendering, presenting their keister and letting Liverpool have their way, because the last 25, 30 minutes of that game, that's what Manchester United done. And even when we were 4-5-0 down, the modus operandi, the mentality should have been not to leave that field without having some sort of bit of play that they can take in a review of the game and say, okay, if we'd done this from the start, maybe we might have had a different outcome. So there's a lot that Ten Hag will be pointing out to his players, and I think he is the right man to take on the slack. And I do expect more players would probably be told your services are not required come summer.
Yep, 100%. I mean, we're going to come off of this topic in a minute. I just want to quickly run through this with you. So the match stats, Liverpool had 59.6% possession. They had 8 shots on target, but 18 in total. They had 669 touches with 468 passes, 17 tackles, only 11 clearances and 4 corners. Compared to United, who obviously only had 40.4% possession, 4 shots on target, 8 shots in total, 504 touches of the ball, and 314 passes with 15 tackles. You know, and the last thing I'm going to say about this whole thing before I go through the comments is, like, there's a certain somebody on Twitter who has his head so far up the backside of an ex-Manchester United player. It's hard to see where the ex-Man United player stops and he starts posting, this is what happens when you let him go. Mate, look at the stats on where United were when we had this player and where we were after we got rid of him, and then come at the United fans in regards to it. That's all I'm going to say. So we'll quickly get through some of these comments because there has been quite a few. I want to say hello to the silver one. Obviously, saying Mr. B's alive as well. He's saying to Rossi, don't be nice. And Mr. B jumped away as soon as we got onto this. We weren't hiding. We weren't hiding. Paxton here, we're a little bit here. Indication that Eric Ten Hag won't take Bruno's captaincy away this season as it could risk disruption as much as an important stage of the campaign.
Can we just say, because there seems to be a bit of confusion about that Bruno Fernandes exchange, it has been clarified now that he was not being looking to come off. It was that there was lack of communication as to where he was supposed to take up position. So he was exercising his frustration as a captain to the lack of communication of where am I going now that A, B, and C have come on the pitch.
Yeah, indeed. He's also saying the feeling within the club is that Casemiro, David De Gea, Rafael Varane would be best suited for the permanent captaincy role. Many Man United fans were irritated by Bruno's conduct yesterday. He's also going on here saying that the fan base is shocking recently. This is an interesting one. He warned them all, if anything like that happened again, they won't be another chance for them and they'll be put into the under-21s, which is fair enough. You know, that's fair enough. And he says, one last comment here, I think we can always put blame on fixtures / rotation, but this game is one that the players should and need to turn up for, which is 100%. You need to turn up against these guys. You have to do it.
Colm, I think we need to just be a bit more. Well, I know I can be quite unbiased with this. I have to give credit to Liverpool as well. They turned up and they played really well. And a result like this was coming for Liverpool. They weren't playing the best football this season, and it was just, like I say, a matter of time before they turned up to 100, 120% against a team, and it just so happened that it was Manchester United on this occasion. So fair play to them as well.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. But United should have had the smarts and mentality when it got to 3-0 to be like, look, we're not getting out this game. Let's shut up shop.
Can I just say two things, actually? That particular individual that you mentioned that has his nose attached to the rectum of an ex-player, I've just done myself a favour and blocked him on Twitter because I don't want to see his crap anymore. And number two, an interesting one, reports today circulating that £195,000 per week Harry Maguire has been told he is no longer guaranteed a place in starting 11.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? You know, even though we've suffered a humiliating defeat, I honestly believe if he were on the pitch, it could have been a bit worse. In all honesty, I just want to say hello to Solo. He's saying back the team and the players. As United fans, we always will. And he's saying it's a blip. We will bounce back. We shall see. Now we'll get on to our last topic. Go on, Rebel.
Can I ask one last question before we leave Manchester United? There is rumours today that the Qatari bid has been given a little bit of encouragement from the Glazer family, that because the Glazers are going to prioritise 100% bids on the club, and that they are going to invite them in for advanced talks on resolving the future of the ownership.
Yes, they are. They're also inviting Sir Jim Radcliffe in to have a chat as well. But there is some things that have come out in regards to Sir Jim Radcliffe bid that I'm not going to discuss on this show because it's not really the place for it. But we'll see when I'll try and set up another show and we can go through that a little bit more in detail as well. Now, Tony, if you are here, you're going to love this next one. Are Arsenal champions elect? Arsenal have been having an absolutely amazing season. I said it about United when we played against West Ham and the other day, and that we never seem to know how to die. We got put to the sword, but it looks like Arsenal was going to get put to the sword as well at the weekend, but they came back to win 3-2. Now, Philip Billing scored in the first minute of the game, and then Sensi made it 2-0 to Bournemouth. And then I don't know what happened to Arsenal. They must have got some Rafe energy down them. They came back, and goals from Thomas Partey, Ben White and Reece Nielsen secured the 3-2 victory for them. And that has done them quite well in the table as well. They're up to 63 points so far this season. Are Arsenal champions elect?
I think what you have to kind of take into account is in seasons where you are on a title charge, a vital part of it is winning when you're playing poorly, winning when you're facing adversity. And we're seeing time and time again that Arsenal are pulling those results out of the bag. And it is going to be those results that will be testament to them eventually lifting the Premier League trophy come in this season. I think what we'll see as well from Manchester City is a lot will depend on them, whether they can overturn their Champions League leg. If Man City progress, you will find, I think, that the prioritisation will shift. And all of a sudden then, Arsenal will just have to mind their own house and see themselves home. At this point, I can't see anybody else other than Arsenal Football Club lifting the Premier League. They've waited long enough for it. Some will say that we're waiting long enough to get a major trophy, but I think it's beyond doubt at this stage. We had this with Leicester a couple of years ago. Everyone was saying, "Oh, they're going to slip now. They're going to slip now. They can't sustain this. They can't sustain this." They won the Premier League at the end of the season. Arsenal are going to do the same, and Arsenal are a far bigger, stronger club than Leicester were at that time. So I expect that this will just be the start of them saying, "We're back at the top table, gentlemen. Beware."
Yeah, 100%. I've been saying for a while that Arsenal are going to win the league this season. I've been saying it longer than what the Arsenal fans have been saying it, in all fairness. Ross, I'm going to come to you. Is this basically now, if Arsenal don't slip up or drop any points, it's pretty much done? I know a lot of Arsenal fans, one of them was in the chat that kept saying United are in a title race. Well, that's clearly out of the picture completely now. It is a two-horse race, but who do you think's going to get over the finish line first?
Yeah, before I answer that, I must just touch on why I'm getting a little bit animated in the background. I am watching the Brentford Fulham game, and Mbeumo just missed an absolute sitter from less than 6 yards out. This game is looking end to end, so really, really good game to check out if anybody's watching the football right now. But yeah, as for Arsenal, I've been backing Arsenal since January. I mean, I could see from then that they had the championship mindset, and the way I saw that is just by the attitude of the players. Arsenal's got a fairly young squad, but with that young squad comes hunger and desire. The only thing I could point to that could be the downfall is a lack of experience, especially when it gets to the running and the pressures on them to try and keep up their good form. But I mean, with the result against Bournemouth in the dramatic fashion, like what's happened, that just only goes to solidify that they could be champions elect. Now, it's not good to count our chickens before it hatches, that's for sure. But if they continue the run that they have at the moment, they could be getting that decorated, beautiful Premier League trophy at the end of the season. And why shouldn't they? They deserve it. They've been by far the best team of the season. And when I say team, I mean the fact that how well they've worked together, how they've gelled, and you can see the way they play. They play with smiles on their faces. How many other teams and players can you actually talk about that have shown that type of positive attitude? And just a little break from that, Brentford have scored. The pressure has been continuing, and they've just got an early goal, 1-0 to Brentford against Fulham. And also with Bournemouth, Billings, Bournemouth, he scored really early. I think it was like the second fastest goal in Premier League history at 9 seconds or 9.11 seconds. And Bournemouth tend to do that. They tend to score an early goal and sit off and become hard to break down. For Arsenal to break them down and just continue putting the pressure on, it shows the immense the men's consistency that they've wanted to try and get a result, and they weren't happy with just a draw. They wanted all 3 points. That's a winner's mindset, and you can't take that away from them.
Can I just say one thing quickly? Because I know it's an opportunity for a patented FTSN forfeit challenge. Solo is in the chat saying City will win the league. So I'm wondering, Solo, will you join us in one of those? We need to figure out a spicy challenge that isn't already covered, Column, as a forfeit if City don't win the league.
I'm sure we can come up with one. Give us a little bit of time and we'll come up with one. But we are coming towards the end of the show now, so I'm going to very quickly give you all the scores on the doors from the weekend's action. So it was Manchester City 2-0 victors against Newcastle. Obviously, Arsenal won 3-2 against Bournemouth. Aston Villa beating Crystal Palace 1-0. Brighton and Hove Albion 4-0 winners against West Ham. Chelsea beating Leeds 1-0. Wolverhampton Wanderers beating Tottenham Hotspur 1-0. Southampton beat Leicester 1-0. Nottingham Forest and Everton shared points 2-2 there. And obviously the 7-0 victory for Liverpool. And the current scoreline is Brentford 1, Fulham 0. So that's everything from us tonight. Thank you everybody for watching. Please do consider to like, share and subscribe. We will be back tomorrow on the Football Lounge, where Rebel will be taking the hot seat as host. So from us, it's good night. And all we can say is that Moyes and Rodgers are currently filling in their job seekers allowance forms. The Magnificent Seven are still partying after yesterday. And Arsenal are putting their little ribbons on the Premier League trophy as we speak. Good night.